Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar. Salam, Adabars, Sasrikal, Wanakam, and the rest of them. Thank you very much for being here, and a very warm welcome to all of you for taking time out on Sunday, early morning. I know Delhiites don't move out before 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, but since we wanted to finish everything by lunchtime, and we have 2 sessions with 8 panelists, so we thought we must start on time. We are still waiting for a few people to come, but nevertheless, we'll start now. So before we start, as is our custom in ADR, I'll request you all to stand for the national anthem, and we'll sing it ourselves. जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविण उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए जब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे. Please sit down. Thank you. So basically, aim is to discuss some of the relevant issues and hear the views of the galaxy of our esteemed and distinguished panelists today, just before the upcoming general elections. You are aware of the agenda. It is flashed on the screen. Kindly scroll it. Yeah, hold on. Just for those who have not seen it. So we have 2 sessions. First session from 9:45 to around 11:40, 11:20. This will be chaired by Professor Chhokar. And the focus areas are simultaneous elections, counting of 100% VVPATs in all EVMs, current practice of declaration of election result based on estimated or raw data, voting rights of migrant voters, and digital election campaign. The speakers are Dr. Quraishi, he's on the way, he'll just join. As you are aware, he's the former Chief Election Commissioner. Dr. Guru Prasad Paswan, he's here. He's the National Spokesperson of BJP and Assistant Professor of Law at Patna University. We have Ms. Poonam Agarwal. She's an independent senior journalist. She's here. We have Mr. Apar Gupta, lawyer and observer trustee of Internet Freedom Foundation. After each session, we'll have a question-answer session of about 20 minutes each. And then there'll be a tea break from 11:20 to 11:40. Please scroll. Coming to the next session, this is on money, muscle, and elections in India, from 11:40 to about 1:30. This will be chaired by Dr. Vipul Mudgal. He is the trustee, ADR, and National Election Watch, and also Director and Chief Executive of Common Cause. So the focus area in this session are going to be election funding and campaign expenditure, winnability of candidates with criminal antecedents, factors driving voter behavior on money and muscle power, women and youth representation in politics. And the speakers are Honorable Mr. Justice Madan Lokur. He was a former judge of Supreme Court, as you all know. Then Ms. Reena Gupta, she's the State Secretary of Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Krishna Allavaru, he's the Joint Secretary of AICC and National in charge of the Indian Youth Congress. And Dr. Jeet Singh Man, Director, Center for Transparency and Accountability in the Governance. And he's a teacher or professor in legal education and research in the National Law University, Delhi. So again, this will be followed by a short question and answer sessions. And after that, we will break for lunch. So, a few housekeeping announcements. Please switch off your mobiles. We have a question answer session after each session, as I mentioned. So please hold your horses. Let the discussion continue as the moderator wants it to. And if you wish to have lunch as scheduled, please allow the discussion to finish on time, because IIC is very strict about the timings. If you are late, then you won't get lunch. And last but not the least, we are not asking you to pay for the lunch, but there is a QR code in your resource kits. So donate generously to ADR, we need it. Now, before I call upon Professor Trilochan Shastri, who is the founder, member, trustee and chairman of ADR, to give his opening remarks, a quick intro for those who may not know of him. Basically, you know, he's associated with ADR. I mean, he's presently teaching as a professor in the IIM Bangalore for the last number of years. But before that, when the ADR started, he and Professor Chhokar and all the other trustees, they were professors in IIM Ahmedabad. So he's done his B.Tech from IIT Delhi, MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, PhD from MIT. He's taught in various universities in India, Japan, Hong Kong, United States, and published several academic papers in India and international journals. And he's also a recipient of national awards for research and training. Now, apart from that, the other thing which people don't know about him is that since 2003, he's also running a farmers cooperative, which has in the states of Andhra, Telangana, Maharashtra primarily, and has a strength of almost 45,000 farmers. And the basic theme is to sell the produce directly in the market, thereby benefiting the farmers. And along with that, he is also working for the betterment of slum dwellers in the various cities. So I think with that, and I'll call upon Professor Shastri to kindly give the opening remarks. Professor Shastri.
Thank you for that kind introduction, and welcome from ADR once again to all of you. I am not going to speak about the topics because we have better experts who are going to speak. But one thing has been there in the mind for several years now, that behind elections there is a society. We live in Samaj. So what is happening to our Samaj and our society? Some facts I will place before you. The reason is not that we are going to directly take action on it, but in our discussions, deliberations and actions, and particularly I was keen that young people and our ADR team should be here. It should inform our decisions and actions that Samaj aisa hai, Samaj is like this, and therefore how do we, what kind of things we should do. So let me start by saying that India leads the world in hate speech. Now, if you look at all of you are on various WhatsApp groups and what have you, and whether it is within family groups, within classmates, batchmates, college mates, or whatever other groups each one of us is in, there are huge divisive messages which are being sent around. One hears of husband and wife who do not discuss politics because wife thinks one way and husband thinks the other way. Brothers. So this division in society has not only across so-called castes and religions in India, it has entered into our families. All of you are aware of this. You constantly hear, "Arey yaar, wo main bachpan se janta hu, wo mera mama hai." Now, what kind of nonsense is he putting out there on this thing? Every family is facing this. Now, what does it do to politics is because it is because of politics that this division is occurring in society. समाज में जो बंटवारा हो रहा है, ये राजनीति की वजह से हो रहा है. So, what we should do is a long discussion. We can discuss it offline, but we should think about it. Now, what is the damage that it does? It divides society. What lessons do we learn from history? I'm going to take maybe a few minutes more than what General Verma has kindly given me. You see, what does our Indian tradition say? And what have we learned from history whenever our society has been divided? So, at the risk of sounding a little pompous, I'm going to start with the Rig Veda. It says, Sangachatvam Sandadhadvam. Saath mein chale, saath mein kaam kare. And somewhere there is the last shloka of the Rig Veda. And towards the end it says, Samayane Hridaya. Means, hum ek dil ke hon. Now, whenever this unity has been broken in our society, I'll give you 4 examples and leave you with the question, are we a divided society again today and what damage it can do? The first time we were divided was in the Mahabharata. 2 cousins, groups of cousins who were actually in the same family, they fought a bloody war. The Pandavas lost all their sons, the Kauravas were destroyed due to lack of unity and division within a family. You go just a few years later, the entire Yadav clan killed each other. They were the Vanshaj, or they are from the same as Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna could not save them. They destroyed each other. When there is a division in society, they destroy each other. Then during the Middle Ages, 5 to 10,000 people crossed the Khyber Pass. If you look at the Google, I've seen them. वहाँ ना पानी है, ना बिजली है, ना खाना है, बर्फ, पहाड़, मट्टी. 5 से 10,000 लोग से ज़्यादा नहीं आ सकते थे. They took weeks to come. और इतने बड़े मुल्क पे उन्होंने राज किया. Why? Because we were not united. Then you go a few centuries later, तब तक अय्याशी में वो भी खत्म हो गए. Portuguese, Dutch, French and British, of course, finally. And at the height of the British Empire, one ship, 300 people, 3 months, 3,000 kilometers away they came. एक शिप में उस जमाने में 300 लोग से ज़्यादा नहीं आते थे, 350 लोग. और इतने बड़े मुल्क पे उन्होंने राज किया. They used to say one collector and one SP, and in those days they had only 200 districts. So 400, 600 people were ruling India. ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? Because we were not united. That's why I started, where are we today? Are we disunited or are we united as a society? Across caste, religions, so many things, within families. This is a well-known fact. All of you are aware of it. Now, there is no British or invader from Middle East to cost. We have homemade such people. So, if you look at Parliament, 43% of MPs have a criminal record in India. This is a well-known fact. It's not a matter of national pride. It is internationally known. Whether it is a national pride or shame, we don't. Why are they able to get away with it? Because we are divided as this thing. You see, now we have some honorable people from political parties. You watch any TV show, they normally call some politicians. You just, don't listen to the word, listen to the sense. The sense is, my party is great, and they abuse other parties. That is the only message you get from political parties. Political parties, at least in their public statements, are working for their political party. They are not working for society. They are not working for the country. Who is working for the country? It is left to people like you and me. Society has to save itself. Because the political system is only interested in winning elections and putting across their point of view and somehow convince you कि हमको vote दे दो. They are not they are abusing each other. Political system is divided, people are divided. Today, the electoral bond system has come. The Supreme Court and the State Bank of India. State Bank of India is equivalent to the General Motors of the United States. It is a symbol of India. How many of us, I don't know, 50% of us must be having a State Bank account. It's a hallowed and respected institution. It is in conflict with the Supreme Court. The Reserve Bank of India wrote in writing that the sovereignty of India is under threat if the electoral bond is introduced. They gave it in writing to the Supreme Court, not to the government, and the government still passed that bill. Now we have Dr. Quraishi. The Election Commission of India was asked, the Election Commission gave in writing that this electoral bond scheme is likely to increase black money because under the Representation People Act, the taking on giving of black money in elections and foreign money is illegal. And Election Commission says if the electoral bonds are not transparent, we will not be able to find it out. So therefore, they opposed it. So you have the Election Commission, you have the Reserve Bank of India, now you have the State Bank of India, you have the Supreme Court. It is like, बच्चे कह रहे हैं कि भाई not only mummy daddy are fighting, but uncles and aunts and grandparents, everybody is fighting. The society is divided there. The institutional division is there, the political division is there, and society is also divided. So we need to take cognizance of this. Now I'll just stop. I know I've exceeded my time. What is the way forward? The way forward was given by none other than Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So practically what he did is, he spared no words, he never minced words in denouncing the British Empire. But he kept the door of dialogue open. He constantly had dialogue with the British Empire. And of course, he had a moral stand, hate the sin, not the sinner, don't hate the British, etc. Now, what are we doing? We are living in echo chambers. यहाँ पे जब लोग हैं वो एक मत के हैं, हमारे जो भाई बहन दूसरे वहाँ पे कहीं मीटिंग कर रहे हैं वो दूसरे मत के हैं, वो आपस में बात कर रहे हैं. So we have to reach out in our work, all these things that we are doing, youth, women, empowerment, etc., which we are talking about. We have to reach out to those people, our brothers and sisters of this great country who do not agree with us and have a dialogue. And the way forward was shown by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So I'm sorry I took a little bit more time, but I thought if we reflect on these issues, our actions and action plans will be a little bit more informed. And once again, thanks a lot. We are eagerly looking forward to listening. One of our distinguished speakers is sitting right here. Welcome, sir. And we look forward to today's deliberations. Thank you.
We'll start with the first session. I'll call upon Professor Chhokar to kindly come onto the stage, as also the panelists, Dr. Quraishi, Dr. Guru Prakash Paswan ji, Ms. Poonam Agarwal, and Mr. Par Gupta. Kindly. So, I think all of you are generally aware of Professor Chhokar. He is again one of the founding members of ADR. As I was mentioning, Professor Chhokar is again one of our founder members, trustees. So he was also there at IIM Ahmedabad when this group of professors decided to form ADR. And he also has a PhD from Louisiana State University. He was a former director in charge of IIM Ahmedabad. He's worked in the Indian Railways also as a mechanical engineer and manager for over a decade, and has been an international marketing manager with the public sector organization for 4 years, and he is taught in various universities in Australia, France, Japan, and US. Now, of course, you all know him as the face of ADR, and he's not only with ADR, he's with a number of other organizations also, and one of the most well-known activists of the country, I would say. So with that, Professor Chhokar, I'll hand you over to kindly start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, General Verma, for a somewhat inaccurate introduction. I will not go into any details at all, but all I want to say is that this session is titled Integrity and Inclusiveness of Indian Elections. And we have listed 5 focus areas, which are simultaneous elections, which is also popularly called One Nation, One Election, counting of 100% VVPATs in all EVMs, current practice of declaration of election results based on estimated or raw data, voting rights for migrant workers, and digital election campaign. Now this, as you see, covers a wide range of issues. And we have included these because we think these are issues which need attention of people as well as powers that be. Obviously, each of these is controversial. On each of these, each of the four panelists can speak for several hours. We will not request any of the panelists to focus on one or more. They can choose. They are responsible people, mature, respectable people. The only thing that I will do as the moderator is to make sure that we don't exceed the time limit. I am a little obsessed about that. We are starting about 20 minutes late. Nonetheless, I think if each of our speakers confines himself or herself to about 10 minutes, we will have reasonable amount of time for discussion, which I think is extremely important. And with due apologies to all the panelists, I will be a little harsh and loud in pointing out when 10 minutes are over. So with that request, I don't need to introduce any of the panelists. Dr. Quraishi is well known. Dr. Guru Prakash Paswan, who to me he is a professor of law, before he is the spokesperson of a national party. You've all seen him on television, you know him. Apar Gupta is often seen on television and in the media. Poonam is one of my favorite journalists, if I may say so. She is the one who, and I will introduce her a bit, she is the one who bought 2 electoral bonds worth 1,000 rupees each with her own money and discovered that there was a unique alphanumeric number which is visible only in ultraviolet light. Here is the lady who did that. Otherwise, nobody knew. She had done a lot of other stuff, which I will go easy. Otherwise, people will say, कि ये तो इस पे ज़्यादा ही फिदा हो गया. So let me then.
12 मिनट दे दीजिए.
नहीं, 12 मिनट 10 ही मिलेंगे. So I will then request Dr. Quraishi to start in the order that the speakers are listed.
अगर बाद में कहें तो ठीक रहेगा. मैं सुन लूँगा तो रिएक्ट कर लूँगा सब पे.
देखिए, आप बड़े उस्ताद हैं.
नहीं, ये मेरे व्यू तो सबने बार-बार 1000 बार सुने हुए हैं.
तो फिर आपको 5 मिनट मिलेंगे. ये ठीक है, इसलिए फिर आप बाद में बोलिएगा. 5 मिनट बोलिएगा.
कोई बात नहीं.
ठीक है. So Dr. Guru Prakash, you are number 2, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Chhokar. And I must say, this is a matter of indeed a great honor to be on the same panel as Quraishi Sahab, who has written a lot of books, and we have been a student of, as a student of politics, as a student of law, we have followed his writings very passionately. In fact, one of the few books that I started was An Undocumented Wonder, and I'm really honored to have a signed copy from Dr. Quraishi himself. It's an honor, sir. Professor Chhokar, and प्रोफेसर साहब के साथ कई बार टेलीविज़न पैनल पे भी मुझे रहने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ है. प्रोफेसर साहब खुद भी समय सीमा, समय की मर्यादा का सम्मान करते हैं और ये सुनिश्चित करते हैं कि बाकी लोग भी समय की मर्यादा का पालन करें. अपार गुप्ता जी, पूनम जी,
ये सारा टाइम आपके 10 मिनट में कट रहा है. आई रिस्पेक्ट योर डिसेंसी एंड बट अपना काम की बात करिए.
सर प्रोफेसर के साथ साथ राजनीति में भी हूँ ना सर, तो थोड़ा
ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक.
नो, सो आई थिंक आई वुड स्टार्ट फ्रॉम वेयर Professor Shastri left us, and it's very important. He makes a very important point when he says that एक समाज के रूप में हमारी क्या स्थिति है और how divisive we have been. So I think it's a matter of historically we have seen that some inequalities, some social structure which have been oppressive in nature has been in operation since not only decades but centuries. And it's okay, it's very comfortable that we are having a conversation on these tendencies today. In terms of hate speeches, I think निश्चित रूप से ये एक गंभीर मसला है. और जो मेरी पीढ़ी में जो लोग राजनीति में आए या फिर जो अभी राजनीति कर रहे हैं, शिक्षा जगत में हैं, उन्होंने देखा है कि किस प्रकार से from a period of, if I can say from 2002 to 2014, I think 12-13 वर्षों तक और आज भी ये हमारी लोकतंत्र की खूबसूरती और लोकतंत्र की विशेषता है कि the kind of words, the kind of hate speeches that has been used against people on constitutional offices as well. People who have been prime minister, even the current president for that matter, I think, and integrity and inclusiveness of Indian election. Inclusiveness, I think, is the flavor of the season. And the kind of divisive tendencies, the kind of hateful speeches on the surface can be seen when, for the first time in the history of our politics, we have a woman from tribal community reaching the highest constitutional office in the country. And even she is not immune. उनके पास भी कोई सुरक्षा कवच नहीं है वो hateful speeches से बचने के लिए. Even a prime minister coming from an humble background has to face a lot of wrath, a lot of verbal diarrhea, if I may say, because he's coming from a certain social background. एक विशेष सामाजिक पृष्ठभूमि से होने के कारण कोई hate speeches का ऐसे विक्टिम बनता है तो निश्चित रूप से ये एक चिंता का विषय हम सब के लिए है और होना चाहिए. We are an imperfect society. There are imperfect institutions, there are imperfect structures, but it is completely fine to acknowledge those imperfections. Do we have a perfect democracy? No, we don't. Do we have perfect institutional structure? No, we don't. Do we have perfect institutional autonomies in place? No, we don't. Are we progressing towards it? Yes, we are. 75 years of our existence. पिछले 75 वर्षों में एक लंबी यात्रा हम लोगों ने तय की है और उस लंबी यात्रा में as recently we saw that how the CEC appointment bill that was tabled in the Parliament of India. And as a scholar, I was completely appalled. As a scholar, I was surprised to see that it used to be a completely executive prerogative. In a democracy, in world's largest democracy, the Parliament had absolutely no say when it came to the appointment of Election Commission. People who have been identified that you are unfit to hold public offices has also served as chief election commissioners. So we definitely are an imperfect society. We are acknowledging that. But are we progressing towards that? We are definitely making good steps towards it. Inclusiveness, definitely. Next slide, please. So 4 key components, and I would like to briefly draw your attention towards it. That simultaneous elections, and before that, we are aware of the fact that 96.88 crore electors are registered across the country. And it's very important for us to understand because we have friends from the diplomatic community sitting here as well, from different high commissions. So we are the world's largest democracies. We acknowledge that there are certain things we need to work on. But the fact that we can be proud of is the smooth transition of power. We are all aware of what happened in the United States, but it comes with a lot of difficulties as well. And our institutions have walked that extra mile. Our institutions has done that extra effort to make that journey towards perfection. We see there is an 8% increase in registered voters from 2019. And especially, I was looking at the component of the next session where we are going to speak on the role of women, the role of youth, people with differently abled sections. There is a significant increase and how our last mile connectivity in terms of democratic outreach. Every time an election happens, we see an election commission official. And I would also like to put across, as a government employee, as a university staff, the election commission or the government also engages me before I was in a political position for election related role, for becoming an officer, for becoming a supervisor. So how the last mile connectivity, people from the remotest region are also being given an impression that you're all stakeholders. Female voters registration has surpassed male voters during SR 2024, more than 2 crore young electors in the age group of 18 to 29. So the focus has definitely been on penetrating, on deepening of the Indian democracy. Next, please. Some of the key features that ADR has been working on since decades, has been how do we make the process more transparent? How does it become the inclusive voter registration is more effective? Obviously, there is a growing debate on the EVMs. How can representation be more diverse? Strict electoral laws, independence of election commission, accessible polling station. On every aspect, we can have a separate session, but it's important to be aware of the key features, the key issues on which we discuss. Next, one nation, one election, and how, again, this is a example of how pre-legislative discourse, anything, any bill that is being tabled in a parliament is out for public domain. One nation, one election, or for that matter, any particular issue cannot be a domain of one agency, cannot be a domain of one organization. हमारे देश में हमारे लोकतंत्र की विशेषता है कि किस प्रकार हम प्रयास करके 140 करोड़ लोगों तक पहुंचने में सफल होते हैं, तब not a referendum model, but at least it is out in the public domain, it is out in the pre-legislative discourse. That's very critical. And we have seen how more than 21,000 suggestions for One Nation, One Election panel has come, and 80% of those on record have been in agreement, have given affirmation for One Nation, One Election. The idea, because of the policy paralysis, every now and then there are elections going on. We have law commission reports, we have had parliamentary standing committees speaking in favor of One Nation, One Election as well. No, next slide, please. But how do we go ahead? There are constitutional challenges. We need to make amendment, vote of no confidence, vote of confidence. There are logistical challenges as well. But obviously, as a way forward, it is out in the public domain. Parliamentary Standing Committee on Law and Justice, the legal cap on expenditure of candidate. There are international examples from South Africa and Sweden as well that we can look for. Next, please. Inclusion of 100% VVPATs in all the EVMs. That is absolutely a very fundamental condition for deepening of democracy. Our ECI is globally acknowledged as gold standard in conduct of free and fair elections with integrity in India. ECI has mentioned to the Supreme Court that 100% verification of VVPAT slips in EVMs was a regressive thought and would mean reverting back to the old paper ballot system, which again is out for debates. But since 2019, there have been some positive and progressive efforts in that direction. 3 Lok Sabha, more than 20 elections we have seen. Next, please. Current practice of declaration of election results based on estimated raw data, which again calls for...
9 minutes over, sir.
So I'm just wrapping up.
Sir.
Yes, sir. So current practice of declaration of election result based on estimated raw data, how that data fosters transparency in election processes, demonstrating a commitment to openness and accountability. Early disclosure again means more open process and more open to more public scrutiny as well. Next, please. Voting right for migrant voters. For now, I think if we can imagine of a policy like One Nation, One Ration Card, can we not imagine of a policy where a migrant, and especially I come from Bihar, and I see a lot of people who have migrated for job opportunities, for greener pastures. So I think it is definitely something which can be debated upon. Next, please. Digital election campaign for wide reach, youth mobilization, cost efficiency. There are some data. We can see that 336 million Facebook users, 30 million Twitter users, and so on. Thank you so much. I will not exceed, sir.
Thank you. I really appreciate your discipline.
I'm sorry, I hope I made sense, because in that respective time limit, I thought of catering.
No, and I will make a tongue-in-cheek remark. Discipline from political parties is much more welcome than anything else. Thank you very much.
That's, if I can, that is only possible in a party with a difference, sir. But in any case,
the jury is out, people will decide. Now, Poonam, kindly.
Thank you so much, Jagdeep sir, for your kind words, and thank you, ADR, for calling me. It's an honor to be here and sharing dice with stalwarts. I'm a journalist, so I cannot really come with a PowerPoint and all that. I'll just talk in short, the way I write my scripts and my article, and I'm going to focus on EVM. Although I've done a lot of work on electoral bonds, but I prefer to speak about EVM because electoral bonds is kind of history, although there's a lot to happen. But here I would talk about EVM for a simple reason that whenever people meet me or I go for any discussion or anybody, even common people, one question there, EVM hack ho sakta hai kya? Come on, man, that's not the question to ask. The question is, what's wrong with EVM? I cannot say that it can be hacked. I cannot say that it can be, remotely accessed. That's not the thing I'm going to answer. What I can say for a fact is that it can be manipulated. And how can it be manipulated? By manipulation, I mean that उसके साथ क्या कुछ manipulation हो सकता है जब आप EVM use कर रहे हो या उसको public domain में जब voting के लिए जा रहे हैं, क्या उसके पहले manipulation हो सकती है? I'll first speak about this. I'll divide my this speech, whatever, in two parts. One, that EVMs are vulnerable to manipulation. Second, the process that EC is following is not to the T. They are supposed to follow certain process in the election, which they are not doing. So first thing, manipulation. So all of us, I think so most of us know about former IAS officer Kannan Goswami. He was an election officer in 2019 election, and he was the first person to point out, considering that he had a technical background, he was the one who pointed out that EVM can be manipulated for a simple reason that VVPAT has been introduced. Can I just stand, please? I can't talk much. So what was the reason he was saying? Why was he saying? That he was saying because that EVM and VVPAT, they are divided into three machines. One, EVM has two machines, ballot unit and the control unit. Now, control unit is the one that records it. Ballot unit is where you press the button, and the VVPAT is where the slip comes out. What he was saying that since there are three parts to this, now when you press the button, the vote goes to the VVPAT first. The vote is first registered there, you get the slip, and then it is recorded in the control unit. So what happens? It is not directly, it's just like a computer. Pehle print out nikal gaya, and then you're getting it saved on the computer. So the process should have been that the vote should have gone to the ballot unit, control unit, then VVPAT. So this is a glitch. Why he's saying it's a glitch? Now, because VVPAT has been introduced, you have to put the name, the symbol of the candidate, which is being allocated to each button. Now, once, let's say, suppose first button has BJP. So you have to upload those symbols and candidate name onto the VVPAT so that the VVPAT can put out the slip or, print the slip when you press the button. When does this happen? This happens when just few weeks before the election. So, the engineer of this BEL or ECIL, all of us know that they manufacture the EVM. So the engineer of that particular company, earlier they used to outsource it. Thankfully now they don't, but we can't be very sure about it. I did an article on it in 2019 that the task was being outsourced to a third-party company for uploading these symbols. God knows what we were doing. But nonetheless, the point is that this is uploaded 2 weeks ahead of the elections. Now, that is the crucial bit. How do they upload? Can a malware be uploaded when this particular software is being uploaded? So now that is a major glitch. Who's going to assure that there is no malware? Suppose I press button A for candidate A, but the recording happens to candidate B, but I get the slip of candidate A. Is there any manipulation there? So this is a glitch which we need to understand properly, and I request you people to talk about it when you go in public, to tell them that this is a glitch. We are talking about the glitch. We are not talking about hacking. We cannot prove it. Trust me, we can never prove it, because I can't get an EVM, ADR can't get it, because you will be charged with NSA. None of us can prove that. So this is a major glitch on which Election Commission took a note, because Kannan wrote a letter to EC about it. There was a committee which was formed in, if I'm not mistaken, 2020, but nobody knows what happened to that committee. Technical committee was supposed to file a report, write it back to EC. Nothing happened. So because this is a glitch, this is a major glitch in the entire process, and because of this, nothing has moved. And now this is one reason why we feel that the VVPAT counting and the verification is required. What is the problem in that? Because now, as per the law, the numbers in the EVM is not considered if it differs from the VVPAT. That means EC is also taking VVPAT numbers as the final and the legit number, not the control unit number. There's a reason which EC never explained. So this is one glitch. I hope I'm very clear. I'll happy to answer one-on-one on this if you guys have any confusion. But please talk about it when you talk in public domain about EVM. We don't want to go blank and say, pata nahi yaar, hack hota hai ki nahi. That's not the answer to this. Second, is something, and there is already a petition filed by ADR, and this story I did on in 2019. Now what happens that if you people follow Election Commission side, I don't know, when we go and put cast our vote, it is recorded. The register is maintained. As per the law, voters' data is recorded immediately when you cast it. Now when I did a story where the votes polled data did not match with vote counted. How can that happen? And it was the data which I received, which I got from the Election Commission website, it said final counted votes poll data. It was written clearly. So I pulled out that data from the Election Commission website for 2019 election for 4 phases. And the interesting bit was that I have the number, out of 543, 373 constituency, there was no match. I could match only 4 phases. I couldn't others because EC did not upload it. So out of 7 phases, in 4 phases, the numbers didn't match. The interesting bit is, which I was also appalled about. Okay, fine. I can say that deficit can happen. Kam to ho sakte, corrupt ho gaya vote. But surplus, how can surplus vote come? If the vote cast is 1,000, how can I see 1,200 votes in it? Amazing. This is a petition filed by ADR. It's lying in the court. So that is important to talk about. And ever since this report has come out, ever since the petition is out, EC doesn't publish the data anymore. They put out in percentage, not in numbers. So, and I would just like to read. This is from the EC website. What is the law? Let's talk law. We should not go and just talk about it. The law says the presiding officer has to hand over to each polling agent a copy of the account of votes recorded. At the time of counting of votes, the total votes recorded in a particular control unit is tallied with this account. If there is any discrepancy, this can be pointed out to the counting agent. This is the law. What? It has been thrown out of the window now. So these are the important facts on which we should harp upon, rather than go blank on it and say, yeah, ho sakta hai, EVM mein kuch problem hai. No. So I'm really thankful to ADR that they have filed such important petitions in the court, and I just hope that it comes for the hearing, and I don't know when will it happen, but these are the process. Again, there are other things I can really go on and on and on and on. Like,
Well, 9 minutes are over.
I am also over, sir, now. So the last thing that I would like to point out, that the VVPAT slips should not be destroyed, which again, EC, as per their law, they destroy within a year. They should keep. What's the problem in keeping them for 5 years? Yeah, we have enough of space to storage. So these are the few processes which the Election Commission should follow if at all we want a fair election. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam. I just want to offer 2 what I think are factual clarifications. Kannan's full name is Kannan Gopinath. I think you used a different second name, Goswami.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
His name is Gopinath. Secondly, what you said is that when we press a button on the balloting unit, the information first goes to VVPAT and then goes to control unit. That is the impression that I also had. But recently, the Election Commission has clarified on its website. It says that regardless of where the 3 machines are placed physically, because they are placed physically, the balloting unit, the VVPAT and the control unit is inside the booth with the returning officer. So they say the signal first goes to the control unit, and from the control unit it goes to the VVPAT. Now this is the statement available on their website. I have no reason to doubt it, but I also have no reason to believe it. So that is the factual situation.
So I'll just add on to this. In fact, Kannan, I spoke to him about it length, and I spoke to some engineers also who worked in BCL and BEL. they said the same thing. They supported Kannan on that yes, it is for. So
That's-
I'm just saying, like, that is where,
I mean,
yeah.
Thank you. And apart, the lawyer, here is a professor of law and here is a practicing lawyer who is for internet freedom.
Can I use the podium?
Of
sir?
course you can.
Thank you. So the topic I'll be addressing will be limited to how technology is impacting elections in 2024 in India. And here, having a person who's used technology for the last 15 years, an early user of the internet, there used to be a presumed virtue to technology, which was there more than a decade back. There was a libertarian notion that it would deepen democracy, which came from Silicon Valley, because ultimately a smartphone, a desktop connected to the internet would allow one single person to reach so many, which was not possible earlier until a person was in control of a television tower or a large telegraph network. So it was presumed that this facility ease in broadcast would deepen democracy because it would increase freedom of speech and expression. At that point in time, there was a book which was written, The Net Delusion, by Evgeny Morovitz. He's come out with a fantastic podcast also on what public interest technology in Chile was being built. It's called the Santiago Boys, and how technology can be built by the state. And he argued actually that technology ultimately will be shaped by people who hold power in society, by the way power is actually practiced. So it is not natural for the introduction of technology, which is changing so much about our world, to change it towards what we think will be a better future. It will be a much more pragmatic tomorrow, which will reflect people who have had power, access, education, networks, wealth, to replicate them and use technology to maintain it. And sadly, that's what's been happening. Now, what has been the change from 2019 to the present election has been the addition of about 350 to 360 million broadband connections, mostly on mobile, as per reports of the TRAI. Total teleconnectivity being around 900 odd million broadband connections. And India has the lowest data rates. Before a party in power can claim credit for it, most of these collections have been added due to the market entry of a private operator, which got its license purchased from another operator prior to 2014. And even there are questions how that market consolidation and those low data rates are being offered. But what is the nature of that connectivity? What is the quality of that connectivity? It is high speed. Okay, it is high speed, but it is clustered with people who already have privilege. For instance, in a city like Delhi, there are about 2.7 connections per person. But in a much more rural area, because the TRI reports have a distinction between urban and rural, the teleconnectivity drops almost to half. And if you check the NSSO reports of a person who's ever touched the internet, for women, it is even half of half. And if you check the other government data, most young people cannot attach a document to an email. But what is actually being accessed at this point in time due to the lower data rates, especially relevant for the elections in 2024, is the amount of activity which has shifted from messaging, because 2019 was called the WhatsApp election, to now what our data is showing to video streaming. So this election is actually called the YouTube election. Okay, so these are just some broad trends I wanted to share, because there's a presumption with more teleconnectivity, democracy is deepening, but the story is a little much more complex there. And even there, over the past 1 year, smartphone sales have contracted and teleconnectivity has gone from double-digit increments to single digit. It's contracted in certain quarters. So this story may not hold over the next 5 years. I hope not. More people need to come on. The foundational issues with respect to technology, and I'll quickly go through them, given this foundation and leave the rest of it to a question and answer, is that the issues which are presented by technology are structural. Firstly, does the Election Commission exercise oversight over political parties properly and recognize its jurisdiction as a regulator of political parties or only elections? There is a distinction here. If it does, can it require the IT cells of every party to present a organizational unit and ask for the registration and implement of code of conduct, which is not only applicable for the elections? Can we all agree? Some parties more than other, but all political parties to some extent are culpable in spreading hate speech, misinformation, in entering an arms race to the bottom through one IT cell or the other. Is it not true? But there is no regulation here. In fact, IT cells are quite often termed as warriors or yodhas. This is the end result. You have to win a battle. You have to slay your opponent. The second is paid news and the rise of influencers. Here I think, again, a structural issue evidences in which historically there has been use of government resources to build up political personalities and use it for the purposes of campaign. You may see it today more than ever before. And in fact, here, online influencers play a very important role. Here, there are government agencies such as MyGov, which tie up with online influencers in collaborations which are not made public. They are not proper disclosures. And the most recent advertising policy by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting equates influencers to the same level as journalists, just based on notability and the concept, which I think dogs every democracy today, reach. For it is the real politic, right? Reach kitni hai uski? 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. That's what matters. It's not the quality of the content. And here again, I think this is a foundational issue. It's there in radio, it's there on television, but it increases when it's online. Now, when you come to the content itself and the nature of it, the Election Commission in 2019 made a self-regulatory code with online platforms and an association called the Internet and Mobile Association of India. As a fair disclosure, I worked for this association for 2 years prior to IFF, about 10 years back. And it composes of most of the internet companies. At the time this self-regulatory code was being made, not only ADR, but Common Cause, but 3 former chief election commissioners issued a statement asking for a digital electoral code of conduct in which political parties, the Election Commission, and platforms needed to take certain steps. Why was this issued? Was because the Election Commission, while making this self-regulatory code of conduct, did not give civil society, and you may dispute if civil society is what civil society, but it only held this conversation with platforms and that private association. It was made completely to their self-interest in which there was no liability attached. Exemptions were permitted. Standardized disclosures of what political parties run as ads in terms of ad libraries was not made, and hence it's become complex, incomprehensible, and unimplementable. At best, the Election Commission can send a notice and there can be a specific takedown. I'll quickly wrap up now. I think what we are shifting in terms and the discussion which happens in popular media today regarding the impact of technology on elections is through press and media hype cycles, rather than looking at the foundational issues, because they're dull and boring. They're the issues of tomorrow, and we have lost hope they can be fixed.
9 minutes are over.
So today, what we are talking about in the popular media are deepfakes, right? We are not talking about everything else which is happening. We are looking at the sophistication of technology and its ability to sway elections without looking at the 2019 self-regulation code and how well it worked? That's the question to ask. Because it is being repeated in 2024. And here I would like to note, this year, there has not even been a review, a meeting with platforms, or any kind of public activity which is visible in terms of how technology will impact elections, despite the addition of about 350 million additional broadband connections. Thank you so much.
अब मैंने सबको तो डरा दिया,
अब मेरा नंबर
अब
है,
देखते हैं क्या होता है.
मैं और
I had said that if since you want to speak last, you will get 5 minutes,
I'll get-
but
I'll
you
choose
will
4.
but you will get 10 minutes, sir. I respect people who are close to my age more than I respect young people.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a bureaucrat of 40 years of experience. The procedure is that when all others have had their say on the notes, the man at the top says, I agree. Actually, I agree with all of them. That's the end of my speech.
So now we start the question and answer session.
Exactly.
नहीं.
नहीं, चलिए. Now, it's very difficult for him or me to contain myself to 5 minutes or 10 minutes because this is a collection of some of my articles published on exactly these 10 topics and 100 more.
Publicity of self-written books is not allowed here, sir.
No, isn't. Yeah. Now, in any case, I'm going to offer one copy free to anybody who is below poverty line or is a chai seller. So, otherwise, you have to go on Amazon. All questions are answered. So, now, it's very difficult, but the only thing I'll confine myself only to VVPAT. Although, personally, I feel talking of VVPAT is a red herring, it's a distraction, it's a waste of time, and actually, I'm sure Mr. Paswan and his party must be laughing up their sleeves to keep us busy in a wild goose chase. Because this is not the problem. There are other problems. For instance, a manipulation of electoral roll. Possibility is there. Is anybody talking about it? No. Now, VVPAT. We should go back to ballot papers. What happened in Chandigarh? 34 ballot papers, and what havoc was played? And you want to go back to that? 34 ballot papers. When there are 95 crore ballot papers, what will happen? And how was it resolved? It went up to Supreme Court, and then some people are saying, look, because of the ballot paper, we were able to resolve it. They are still converting it to their advantage. Now, VVPAT, EVM VVPAT is a controversy which should have died by now. And I agree with Poonam that the Election Commission is not communicating. That's my complaint. In fact, I advised once the current CEC, once he asked me, otherwise they are all bright people, I have no business to advise them. I think it's one mistake you are making. You are not communicating. Because if EVM is being doubted, it is your duty to answer it. And if people raise question 100 times, you have to answer it 100 times. So, having answered it 5 years ago, 7 years ago, the figures not tallying, it's a fact. For months there was a controversy, it's a figure. How could it happen? What were they talking about? How can the figure not tally? They have to. So therefore, that's a debate which has gone on for now. And even the Kannan thing. I'm glad Professor Chhokar has clarified, but my common sense, for 20 years we have been using a ballot unit which sends the vote to a control unit. A third unit which was introduced by me, VVPAT, is introduced. Why will it be an interface? Why will it come in between? It means complete, retrofitting of the entire machine. The machine, this match is already working fine. It's an additional machine. When you press a button, one button sends electronically the vote electronically to the machine. The same button sends through another wire to the printer, where there is a screen and the print. The print gets published, so that's simultaneous. But in any case, being in as people were saying, look, you are the biggest defender of EVM, and the Election Commission is not. I asked one of the 5 IIT professors who we have had for 20 years as our technical experts. We are all technically illiterate, but unless they put their stamp, we don't accept it. And I asked that gentleman, in fact, I can even name him so that you contact with him, Professor Rajat Munna. I had included him in this thing. He was the man who was in charge of passport security. He laughed at it. He said, what is the question of this becoming an interface? How is Kannan talking about this if he is an engineer? And he told me something of which I was not aware, a term broadcast mode. He said what happens is when you press the button, it goes to the control unit. Control unit is the machine, is the unit which broadcasts to both the machines. To the ballot unit, okay, look, now you are ready to operate, please press the next button, I'll record it, and it sends the signal to the VVPAT, okay, now you please print the thing. So this was clarified. And as Professor Chhokar has said, the Election Commission has recently in their FAQ has clarified it. By wasting your time, you are not looking at all other possibilities which may happen, including the biggest thing is electoral
Please don't
vote.
hold Poonam personally and individually responsible.
No, because Poonam is a very great investigative journalist. I've been at the suffering end of her investigation. Once she's after a story, she will not let you sleep. So, and she she picked it up as the top priority item. Do investigate. You are a great investigative journalist. Do investigate the possibility of manipulation of the electoral roll. Election can be won and lost before the election through the manipulation. 20 names cut off in a booth, no power on earth. Even the CEC cannot say, okay, look, I recognize Mr. Chhokar, he was there till last month, allow him to vote. I cannot. Once there is a red line on his name, he's gone. So if that is happening, can that happen? What are the safeguards? So there are the things. And even in EVM, we had seen I had seen myself, you must have seen also, that somebody in the polling booth who is a polling agent, a woman walks up to the booth where she has to press a button. Somebody very coolly, calmly walks up before her, goes and presses the button. Once the button has been pressed, the vote has been cast, this woman goes, she looks around, she presses some button, she thinks she has cast a vote and comes out. He does it a second time. And he does it a third time. We saw it on TV. Are political parties safeguarding it? Are they preparing? Is there some training ground? Is media writing about it? Nobody. But these are the kind of manipulations which may be possible, but not the ones which are wasting all our time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Quraishi. And for the sake of record, he has taken 6 minutes, 42 seconds, 42.69 seconds. Thank you, sir. Since I have some time, Not yet, sir. The discussion is not yet started. I also have a prerogative to speak something. So, Dr. Quraishi, on a personal note, sir, please don't mind. I completely appreciate his saying Election Commission is not communicating. Because Dr. Quraishi is a PhD in social communications. और एक बड़ी पुरानी कहानी है कि you give a little boy a hammer and you discover how many things in your house need hammering. So social communication तो problem है ही. But there are also, sir, issues like Chandigarh. I have written that what would have happened if the Chandigarh election was with EVM? What would have Supreme Court looked at and taken a decision? I have written that, sir. At least maybe other people also have, so have I. The question is, there is no question of going back to ballot paper and booth capturing and so on. Whether first of all, I said, Election Commission has said it on their website that the signal first goes to the control unit and then it goes to VVPAT. I said I have no reason to disbelieve it. I also said I have no reason to believe it. Because what happens inside a machine is not clear to anybody. There are 3 principles of election: vote cast as intended, vote recorded as cast, and vote counted as recorded. Now, these are the 3 fundamental principles of an election. And a citizen, however non-technical that person may be, has a right in a democracy to be assured that this is happening, to her or his satisfaction, which the system today, and I have also said and written that it is not that the EVM is manipulatable. Now we have an EVS, electronic voting system, which, as Poonam said, consists of 3 machines. If there are 3 machines involved, the EVM, the control unit, and the VVPAT, it is an electronic voting system. The problem is not with the EVM. Problem is with the electronic voting system. We don't know, as a citizen, I don't know whether it goes to the control unit or to the VVPAT. Election Commission says so. But unfortunately, and I say this with great pain, it is extremely unfortunate that there are so many doubts about the electronic voting system today. And for this, I hold all political parties, all in capital letters underlined, squarely responsible. Long ago, when BJP was in the opposition, don't mind, Mr. G.V. Narasimha Rao wrote a book. And Mr. Lal Krishna Advani wrote a foreword to that book, which was against the EVMs. The other parties, all other parties, Aam Aadmi Party, AIDMK, Trinamool, whenever they have lost, they have said EVM is the problem. Whenever they have won, they have said EVM are fine. It is the all political parties put together who are responsible for creating a sense of dissatisfaction amongst the people of this country about democracy. And now they are taking sides, and they will continue to take sides. That is why Professor Shastri said we are a divided society. I mean, on this issue, every party is guilty. I can give you examples when they have said one thing and when they have said another. What are people to believe? And then let me now, everybody has a solution, so do I. I have recently been saying and writing that we should get rid of the VVPAT and the counting unit. The EVM, electronic voting machine, the so-called balloting unit, should have a simple printer attached to it. The quality of the paper and the quality of the ink should be such that they don't disappear after a few days, which they do. They should be such that they last for at least 7 years. And the slip that is the simple printer prints out should also have a barcode, a unique barcode. And this slip should be given to the voter. Voter should be able to just get it himself or herself from the printer and put it in a box. The barcode is to ensure that these slips can be machine counted. There will be no counting over 3 days or 4 days or 7 days or 10 days as the case may be. Of course, we can have a 7-phase election which lasts 30 days, but then counting has to be done in 2 days or 2 hours. So barcode will result in machine counting, which will take 2-3 hours, and the voter will be able to physically see, satisfy herself that the vote is cast as intended, recorded as cast, and then counted as recorded. This is what I think is the solution, but of course, I am one of those who suggest solutions all the time. It's not going to happen. But the point is, whether EVMs or the EVS is manipulable or not, there is disaffection in the country. In significant sections, I'm not saying the country is burning. We are a placid people, we don't burn. A US Air Force fellow can burn himself. We don't care that. So nothing will happen, elections will happen as they have been happening. But disaffection exists, and which is not good in a society or in a country which is held to be the largest and the most vibrant democracy in the country. There are other things one can talk about. As Dr. Quraishi said, for him and me to confine to 10 minutes is not possible, but we have to. So now, yes sir, your question. And I would request the questions to be brief and to introduce yourself also.
My name is Paranjoy Guha Thakurta. I'm a journalist and publisher. This question is for Quraishi ji and others on the panel. We were all taken aback last evening when we learned that the President of India had approved the resignation of Sri Arun Goel from the post of Election Commissioner. Since 1989, since the Election Commission became a three-member body, we have only one person in charge. We do not know why. The circumstances under which he was appointed were rather unusual and controversial. In November 2022, he retired, he took voluntary retirement a year before the sector retired, and then he was appointed the next day as the Election Commission. It went to court, but we know what happened. I would like Quraishi ji and others on the panel to give your views on this most unusual development that took place last year.
I have a clarification to your question. Are you surprised that the president has approved the resignation, or are you surprised that Mr. Arun Goel has resigned?
The latter.
Acha, theek hai.
You know, it's a surprise for everybody, and nobody on the panel and nobody in the hall can answer. All media, I have 200 calls since yesterday wanting to know from me. They're all groping in the dark. But let me take you back. You also raised the question about his appointment. I'm very sorry to say how ill-informed the media is. The kind of fuss they made about his announcement that, he applied for VRS, voluntary retirement, and the same day it was approved, and the same day, no surprise, no big deal. I was appointed the same way. I got the order one day. I go to the election commission, and one thing on which in the entire the country is ill-informed. You don't you don't need voluntary retirement. The moment you sign the election commissioner thing, it's a deemed resignation. I went through the deemed resignation, so there was no controversy. I resigned the same day, was accepted the same day. It was all nonsense. So if we can discuss nonsense ad infinitum, so that is the quality of our investigative journalism. It was totally uncalled for controversy. So that is the other part of it. About the second, I don't think anybody has any answer.
Oh, sir, I have a clarification from you. Do you know that you got the appointment letter and you went to the election commission? Do you know what happened before your appointment was approved by the president?
Yeah, no, I know that. Because you know what
Please
happened?
tell us that.
No. Because you think the procedure is that the Prime Minister makes up his
Sir,
mind.
the procedure is known. Sorry to interrupt.
So what do you want to know?
I want to know exactly how many days did it take for your procedure to be finished?
2 days.
From start to finish.
2 days.
Very good.
Yes,
Very good.
2 days.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And no, another thing. Whether the media was responsible or not, I don't hold a brief for the media, but the Supreme Court in its judgment has said that his appointment was done in very mysterious circumstances.
I think
That is the Supreme Court saying. Supreme Court can also be wrong. I disagree with them many times.
Exactly. In this case, Supreme Court is wrong.
Good.
Because they did not know the procedure which was followed for 70 years, and I'm telling you first-hand account.
The Solicitor General and Auditor General were there to tell them. Anyway, Hanji,
I'll tell the Chief Justice.
please do that.
Yeah, I will.
I'm Manish Sharma. I'm working as a researcher. My basic question is that foreign University of Michigan has basically published that that it researched on EVMs and they found that the software and both the software.
No, I'm sorry. Just a minute. No. He has answered the EVM question. We cannot keep asking questions on the same issue. I'm sorry.
And the chips can be manipulated. And the second question is regarding that most of the EVMs that are found in India basically considered the hardware is not up to the standards to hold the elections. Basically recently they found that nearly 30% of the EVM basically are not up to the standard. The hardware is not functioning up to so that it can.
Thank you. I don't think we need to answer this question, sir, because we have been through this EVM issue a lot. Yes, sir.
Just one clarification
या
here.
फिर वो और सवाल पूछेगा?
नहीं, वो एक सेकंड. वो एक और को प्रेम करता हूँ. एक सवाल बार-बार सुनने में आता है. अब पिछले दिनों कुछ आर्मी के कुछ लोग 19 lakh EVMs are missing. I want to know 19 lakh. The total machines in the country which we use are 20 lakhs.
Sir,
If
you have
19
also
lakhs-
made your point,
and
sir.
if
Please
19
don't. Sir,
if
please.
19 lakhs are missing, how the hell do we conduct the
Sir,
elections?
please don't open the controversy again. You have also made your point.
No, I answered.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Archit Chaudhary. I'm a reporter with Boom Fact Check, and I have a very umbrella question, something that I've been very curious about for a long time. So Estonia introduced e-voting in the 2000s. There was a lot of
No. So several countries have done e-voting and gone back. That's what you want to ask?
No. So they had after a lot of criticism, they had open sourced their e-voting process, because of which a lot of vulnerabilities have come to process, and now their system stands solid, much more than what it was introduced. Last year, a writ petition was filed in the Supreme Court asking for an audit of the source codes of the voting machines. But the Supreme Court turned it down, saying that if it's out in the public domain, that it can be hacked, which is the opposite of what's true. So what would it take for the Indians to actually know transparently how the voting process is? Because it's a black
Your
box.
question is over.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will not entertain this question. Yes, sir, at the back. No, यार यही चलता रहेगा सारे टाइम.
ये प्रोफेसर मुझे ये आंसर करने दीजिए.
नहीं फिर
Allow me to answer
इसको
this.
करना दो यार.
नहीं मुझे मैं
अच्छा ठीक है, चलो भाई करो.
Anyone in the hall can pinpoint where Estonia is?
Yes, I can.
Where is it?
In the centrally independent or CIS countries.
It is not.
It is not Commonwealth. It is a CIS country.
Estonia के को example लेके, and by the way, the company which conducted the Estonia election, I was a member of the board of advisors of that company, and I resigned because they wanted me to promote this. They said I can only advise you, guide you, but I will not promote your machine. So that is about the Estonia.
ठीक है. Par, you want to say something? This is actually a threat. No, go ahead.
Estonia is not a good example to use ever when comparing it to India. That's the first thing. It's a former Soviet country, which is a NATO member and possibly a satellite state. The second way, how it's saying that it's promoting itself as a country is essentially integrating technology at a very base level. And if you look at how many people are actually Estonians, what is the nature of the economy, what is the nature of the country, it's completely incomparable to India. The basis of it implementing an open source system to voting is e-voting actually, Arches, which is voting through your smartphone. Hence the example is not comparable. But I do agree with this. So the question itself which you have given is not well formulated. Okay? Because the foundation of the fact which you're saying is not EVMs. It is e-voting, voting through your smartphone. For the reasons I stated earlier, including the inability of most people who have internet access and are young to attach an email, thereby having limited literacy and the ability to navigate beyond 5 or 10 smartphone applications, I think it will be dangerous to consider e-voting. Okay? And it will also result in a very skewed level of participation, which we saw with online vaccination for COVID. Metropolitan more than urban, higher income groups, more men. So it will conflict with the stated goals of the Election Commission of having diversity in participation. Now I've gone on about it for quite a bit. But the second part of your question of open sourcing, whatever are the technologies used, I support it, because I think it actually makes the discovery of flaws within that process much more evident. The problem here is that the Election Commission says that the security which comes in the system is due to the obscurity, the secrecy we maintain, and people cannot then exploit those vulnerabilities. This is also something which is used by large corporations quite often, limited amount of public knowledge. And open sourcing sometimes by itself, whether if you don't have enough resources which you devote, when flaws are discovered, to fix those flaws can actually contribute to higher levels of threat. Okay? I'm not with the Election Commission on that, but I am saying why it has prevented or it has organized hackathons, but then people have questioned whether they're truly open, why EVM machines are not given, why it's an offense if you reverse engineer them, etc., etc. I think those things need to change, but the foundational example of using Estonian e-voting should not be done.
Ek minute, I want to make a statement. I understand, and I said EVM is a very important issue. But I also realize that EVM is an issue which we cannot come to any serious resolution here. We can discuss it. It will serve the purpose of making us more and more aware. But I also feel that there is more to elections than EVM. वो फैज़ अहमद फैज़ ने कहा था हैं और भी ज़माने में दुख मोहब्बत के सिवा. So my proposal is that we do not discuss EVMs anymore. We have only 10 minutes to discuss. But if the House wants to discuss EVMs, I have no problem. हाँ जी. एक मिनट.
I have a question to Mr. Paswan Saab. He just mentioned about hate speeches. यानी आपकी स्पीच में जो बात नजर आई उल्टा उल्टा चोर कोतवाल को डांटे वाला मामला नजर आया. Who started this? You didn't mention. पप्पू कह रहे हो, कपड़े देखकर पहचानो कह रहे हो, कौन ने कहा ये? You just mentioned in your speech. You just respond to this.
एक और बात मैं और कह दूं प्लीज कि ये प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं है. नहीं, आई एम आपके लिए नहीं कह रहा हूँ, बट वी नीड टू रिमेंबर इट इज नॉट अ प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस, इट इज अ डिस्कशन, इट इज अ सेमिनार एक्सेट्रा. हाँ जी, अब आप जवाब दीजिए. आई जस्ट अ मिनट, लेट हिम आंसर दैट क्वेश्चन.
I would just like to frame it in a similar way. It's the same question. Let's not take much time. So when we started this discussion, you talked about hate speech, and you said, even people on constitutional positions are not immune to hate speech. But as he was not able to, I was also not able to resist myself from looking at the other side of the coin. What solutions do you suggest when people who are themselves on the constitutional positions, they are the perpetrators of hate speech? Because aren't there instances of...
Thank you.
No, madam, I think I would like to go back to my inspiration, Dr. Ambedkar, in this case. And Dr. Ambedkar makes a very important point. He says that on 26th of January 1950, we are going to enter into a life of contradictions. 26 जनवरी 1950 को एक राष्ट्र के रूप में हम ऐसे जीवन में प्रवेश करेंगे जो अंतर्विरोधों से भरा होगा. We will have equality in politics. राजनीति में समानता होगी with the principle of one man, one vote, but we'll have gross inequality in our social and economic life. सामाजिक और आर्थिक जीवन में गैर बराबरी, असमानताएं हैं. So the question on who started it, मैं वहाँ जाना नहीं चाहता हूँ because I can give a political speech and that will consume more than 10 minutes of yours. For as long as I remember, we have faith in institutions have given a judgment, but we don't rely on that judgment. मौत का सौदागर, 100 such examples are there in the entire political history of our nation. We have not seen that a person on the constitutional position, just because a president comes from Adivasi background, just because she comes from a tribal community, just because of her skin tone, she is being accustomed to attacks, verbal diarrhea. I think that needs to be questioned. Now, whether the other side of the coin, definitely. And I think the answer to this is that there are gross social inequalities, there are comments being made, our democracy needs maturing, our discourse needs maturing, that's absolutely essential. और मैं सहमत हूँ आपसे. अब पहली गोली किसने चलाई, मुर्गी आई, पहले अंडा आया, यहाँ जाने का कोई अर्थ नहीं है. बट निश्चित रूप से संविधान का, सत्ता का और लोकतंत्र का विकेंद्रीकरण हो, डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन हो और विमर्श में और सम्मान आए. The fact that we are sitting here, many questions are being raised. But what Professor Shastri said at the very outset, the dialogue must go on. संवाद संविधान का आधार है. Discussion must go on. Discussion is the essence of democracy. So whatever started, I have taken a lot of notes from here. Whether EVMs or not, whether VVPATs or not, I think I come from Bihar and I have seen the Lalu era as well. Sir would agree. T.N. Sessionji was the Chief Election Commissioner, and how people on the basis of muscle, they used to influence elections. So are we suggesting, are we contemplating to going back on that phase or not? I think that's a question we must all answer. It's a nation of 1.4 billion people. And I think the more the question gets decentralized, the better it is for us. Thank you, sir.
Haji, yes, please. नहीं, वो रिकॉर्ड भी हो रहा है.
अंजना काव भगत है. मैं ये क्लैरिफाई करना चाहती हूँ कि जो हम इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वोटिंग मशीन पे इतना डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं वो गलत है, क्योंकि मैं 1984 में जब ये मशीन स्टार्ट हुई थी और मिस्टर आर के त्रिवेदी चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर थे, तो मैं सेंटर फॉर पॉलिसी रिसर्च के लिए वर्क कर रही थी. तो मैंने देखा जो हैदराबाद से जो इंडस्ट्रीज थी जो बना रही थी मशीन, उन्होंने कहा ये हो ही नहीं सकता कि इसको किसी भी तरह से मैनिपुलेट किया जा सके. और जैसा कि पूनम जी कह रही थी कि जब हम वोट देते हैं और वो सीधा वीवीपैट में जाता है, पूनम जी ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, पहले उसको वहीं जाना है जहां पे वो गया है। वीवीपैट का मतलब है वेरिफिकेशन कि जो वोट डला है वो कहाँ डला है, तो उसके बाद ही वो वहां जाएगा। तो मुझे लग रहा है ये पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज अननेसेसरी इसके ऊपर डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि सेम पॉलिटिकल पार्टी जब हारती है तब कहती है वीवीपैट ये मशीन खराब है, और जब जीत जाती है, मान लीजिए जैसे पंजाब में हुआ या दिल्ली में हुआ, आपने ऐसे कहा, और फिर जब जीत गई तो तब वो मशीन ठीक हो गई। तो मैं ये क्लेरिफाई करना चाहती हूँ कि इसके ऊपर डिस्कशन गलत है जो मशीन है। और दूसरी बात, जहाँ तक ये चीफ इलेक्शन कमीशनर और इलेक्शन कमिश्नर्स की बात है, ये तो 89 के बाद ही हुआ, मल्टी मेंबर कमीशन हुआ और ये पैनल बना। उससे पहले भी तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ही चूज करते थे, तब क्यों नहीं ये इश्यूज आते थे? ये हमें सोचना है। क्यों हम इस तरह से बातें कर रहे हैं कि ये पैनल वो पैनल बने? पहले भी तो इतने अच्छे चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर थे और उन्होंने इतना निष्पक्ष रूप से काम करा, तब तो किसी ने उंगली नहीं उठाई। हमें ये देखना चाहिए जो बंदा उस कुर्सी पे बैठता है क्या वो निष्पक्ष है कि नहीं है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो अब जिस तरह से जो अभी रिसेंटली ये पास हुआ है बिल, जिससे कि उनका जो स्टेटस है वो हटा दिया गया है, सुप्रीम जज के कोर्ट के जज से इक्विवेलेंट नहीं रखा है, वो गलत है, क्योंकि उससे उसकी इंडिपेंडेंस जा रही है। अदरवाइज पहले भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर चूज कर रहे थे, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, तो अब क्यों प्रॉब्लम आ रही है?
ये इसका जवाब मैं दे दूंगा आपको।
और मुझे लगता है एक और बात
हाँ,
कि मोर देन
अब आप बात से पूछती जाएंगी तो बाकी लोग क्या करेंगे?
बस एक बात कि हमें मॉरलिटी और इथिक्स उसके ऊपर जोर देना।
बिल्कुल सही है। हाँ जी, आप दीजिए जवाब, जो लंबा नहीं है।
नहीं लंबा नहीं, सबको ये रजिस्टर किया कि कहाँ वोट पहले जाता है, वीवीपैट या कंट्रोल यूनिट। आप लोगों ने शायद ये नहीं रजिस्टर किया कि अब बैलेट यूनिट को ये पता है कि कौन सा बटन किस पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को असाइंड है, जो कि पहले नहीं होता था। ईवीएम के टाइम, वीवीपैट के टाइम हुआ, तो उसके बाद ये सॉफ्टवेयर अपलोड होने लग गया है, और ये सॉफ्टवेयर अपलोड होता है 2 हफ्ते पहले, और इस सॉफ्टवेयर के साथ पॉसिबिलिटी है मैलवेयर डालने की। प्लीज़ अंडरस्टैंड, ये चीज़ ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है कि इसको अब मशीन को ये पता है कि कौन सा बटन बीजेपी को है, कांग्रेस को है, टीएमसी को है, या और अदर पार्टीज़ को है। पहले मशीन को ये नहीं पता था कि कौन सा बटन किस पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को असाइन किया गया। तो ये चीज़ आप प्लीज़ समझिए, कहाँ पहले रिकॉर्ड होता है, कहाँ नहीं होता है, चलिए उस पर एक डिस्कशन है, बट ये जो उसको नॉलेज है अब मशीन को, ईवीएस को, जैसे सर ने कहा सिस्टम को, ये नॉलेज पहले नहीं हुआ करता था। That's an important thing, and I think EC should answer on that.
आपने कहा पहले एक ही चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर हुआ करते थे, बिल्कुल सही है, और उस वक़्त इस तरह की कॉन्स्पिरेसी या कंट्रोवर्सी नहीं होती थी। मेरा अपना निजी ये विचार है, जो मैं गलत हो सकता हूँ, कि उस ज़माने में पॉलिटिकल कंपटीशन इतना ज़्यादा नहीं था। अब पॉलिटिकल कंपटीशन जो है वो बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है, इसलिए इलेक्शन कमीशन का हर एक एक्शन बहुत तीखी निगाह से देखा जाता है, और बहुत लोग देखते हैं। पहले एक पार्टी पूरे देश में होती थी, बाकी पार्टियां छोटी छोटी थी। आपको तो ये भी याद होगा कि मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट क्यों बना था और कैसे बना था। वो यूँ बना था कि एक सत्तारूढ़ पार्टी थी, बाकी सारी पार्टियां समझती थी कि ये बहुत गड़बड़ कर रही है, तो वो सब ने मिल के बनाया। उस वक़्त का जो राजनीतिक माहौल देश में था और आज का जो पिछले 15-20 साल से राजनीतिक माहौल है, वो बहुत फ़र्क हो गया है। अब उसमें प्रतिस्पर्धा बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई है, पहले प्रतिस्पर्धा बहुत कम थी। ये मेरा अपना विचार है, गलत भी हो सकता है। हाँ जी, यस सर, यंग मैन।
Good morning, sir. I am Prem Milan Gujarati. I am a final year undergrad student at IIT Kanpur. My question is,
why are you not attending your course?
No, sir. I was actually in Delhi for my IIM Calcutta interview, so that is why.
This is noted.
I am actually a student of one of your students. So, question is that we didn't talk about migrant voters. A huge chunk of that is actually students. For example, I want to go to my home. My hometown is roughly around 1,000 kilometers away. I want to go back home and vote. I'm a first-time voter this year, but my academic calendar won't allow me to do that. So, what is the solution to this problem? Now, universities are much more secure places, so some solution can be piloted there, and then the problem of migrant voters can be solved. But what are some potential solutions to this problem where, my first election and I'm not being able to vote due to some constraints, I'm losing my right?
ये करो जवाब कुरैशी साहब आप ही को देना पड़ेगा.
मैं हैरान हूँ आपने मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी दे दी.
आप गुरु हैं सर.
कोई बात नहीं. बेटा, rule is wherever you are living for more than 6 months, you have to enroll there.
Correct.
Now that you are in the university, you have a voting right there. So just enroll, and when you go back wherever you want to after 2-3 years, this will be transferred wherever you go. So it is not that your voting right has been taken away. It's there. You only have to know it.
अब सर मैं भी इसका थोड़ा सा कमेंट करूँगा. Not only students, there are also I don't know whether migrant workers are larger in number than migrant students. And those migrant students, I think Dr. Quraishi is absolutely right. Migrant students are very well capable of registering themselves wherever they are. But migrant labor, a lot of whom are illiterate, who do not have who are not tech savvy, they cannot make use of this rule. Rule exists, I totally agree. And for students, this rule is perfectly valid. But for migrant workers, this rule is a problem. It is good to say that you can register on the net and fill up Form 6 and so on and so forth. But a migrant worker, for doing that, has to take a day off. उसकी तनख्वाह कटती है उस दिन की. और फिर 1-2 दफ़ा और जाना पड़ता है. People have studied this. It takes a migrant worker a minimum of 3 days to get their vote registered. और वो 6 महीने तो रहते हैं एक जगह. उन्होंने एक बिल्डिंग बनाई और फिर उनको कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ने कहा तुम दूसरे शहर में चले जाओ. वो 6 महीने ना रहें एक जगह, नहीं रह सकते फॉर इकोनॉमिक रीजंस. उनके लिए भी हमें सोल्यूशन ढूंढना है. ये I don't have a solution to this, but I know the problem is of a different order. Haji. Yes. And I think this will be the last question because we have exceeded our time.
Hello, sir. I'm Somesh, a research scholar. So my question is whether we talked about new technological advances towards the end of the session. Why is EC so late to react to that? Like political parties are using AIs, even the deepfakes and all these. So is it basically an institutional problem rather than a technical problem that our institutions are marred with bureaucracy and all these things? And to Quraishi sir, on a lighter note, sir, I do come from a BPL family. So I need that. I have a scholarship now, though I don't know what you make of it.
So any of the panelists can answer this question. अब ये आप कहिए, मैं कहूँगा तो कहेंगे आपने मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी दी.
नहीं, क्या था क्वेश्चन? क्या था बेटा, तुम्हारा क्विकली बताना.
AI से सर.
हाँ, नहीं मैं इलेक्शन कमीशन टेक्नोलॉजिकली एडवांस क्यों नहीं है?
Let me make it clear. Election Commission uses all the latest and most advanced technology for everything except voting. Where deliberately, by a conscious decision, we use 17th century technology of a calculator. So we are using all technology. GPS, GIS, whatever is the latest, we use all that.
My question is, why do they not make regulations for these new technologies? या जो भी मतलब जैसे AI आ गया, there is social media.
Let me tell you, it will take a minute. When
एक blockchain की बात आ गई है, that might be helpful for migrant.
When social media had just come about 12 years ago, the Election Commission started talking of some regulation. The entire nation started pouncing on the Election Commission. Who the hell are you? How can you regulate and how can you catch? Now these are on which I had then written an article mentioned in this book, in the Outlook, where you know what I said? I said, look, the allegation was that it is very difficult to catch a defaulter because they all hide behind anonymity. Now I said even rapist is difficult to catch, even murderer is difficult to catch, but that doesn't mean we do not make it a crime. So we make it a crime and try to catch. Someday or the other we'll catch up with them. Secondly, the rule was that social media is also media. So whatever applies to media should apply to social media. In our context, what applies to social media? Two things, or any media. Expenditure, you have to report all expenditure on the media to the Election Commission, and the content has to be regulated by the Election Commission. So therefore, the people who are critical of any regulation by Election Commission, this was the answer for them. And later on, they had a meeting with all the service providers, and they came up with a decision that they will help us in voter education, not in voting process, but voter education, and also deal with the Facebook war, that Election Commission was appointed in every district one officer who will report a complaint, okay, look, fake news or hate news, and you please remove it from Facebook. And the decision was within 3 hours they will remove it. Now 3 hours is 300 years in the IT parlance. So therefore, once you have identified a responsible man who will report, it should be done in 3 minutes. But the fact that the dialogue had started, it has been going on. I have not updated myself. Maybe something is happening, or Election Commission hasn't come on the website, but it is happening.
I will, sir, only repeat your advice. Election Commission should communicate.
Communicate.
It should communicate why they are not doing it. They should communicate what they are doing. They don't communicate. I totally agree with you, sir. They don't communicate. I send letters to them in my personal capacity. They don't even acknowledge. They don't communicate. So I thank all of you.
Just 1 second, sir. On this, I spoke to CEC about only 15 days ago, exactly saying the same thing. He said, sir, we have just come out with an updated FAQ. And 4 or 5 new points they have updated. They need to do more. There are about 89, 90 points. Let us consult, let us have a look at this.
वो मैंने पढ़ लिया है सर, उन्हीं से मैंने बताया था.
इनको बोल रहा हूँ.
ये तो रिसर्च स्कॉलर है सर, अभी इनको करने दो का. तो
आगे से आप मेरा चेयर नहीं करेंगे, जनरल वर्मा या लोचन शास्त्री करेंगे.
देखिए ये ADR की इवेंट है, इसमें आपका कोई दखल हो ही नहीं सकता. Anyway, thank you very much to all the participants, and a special thank to all the panelists. They have tolerated my idiosyncrasy. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chhokar, for adhering to the time, and to the panelists for the wonderful discussion. It was very lively and very nice question and answer session.